Here we go. Nice and quiet.
Sound speeds, camera rolling.
Holding for sound.
Last looks. Calling for last looks.
And set and action.
I need to swap batteries.
You know, making movies is hard.
Making movies is hard.
Welcome to Making Movies is Hard, the podcast about the everyday struggles of being an independent filmmaker. I'm Liz Manischel.
And I am Alrik Brissell.
This week we have April Mullen, Canadian actress and filmmaker, who has come on the show to talk with us about her latest feature, Wander, and her pretty prolific career before that in TV and in film. But before that, let's do a catch up. Alrik, what are you up to?
So, this week we don't have mail, so instead we thought we would just talk about what we've been up to in the last God knows how long since we've caught up with each other. So, Liz, what's going on? I think the last time we talked about Lady Parts. What's going on with your Lady Parts movie? Is anything? News? Updates?
No, I mean, I finally gave notes on the script, which I had avoided doing for 7 months.
Oh my God.
And we've delivered a new script, and we're breaking down and budgeting that script. So we're finally in motion there, which is exciting. But while that's playing out, I've decided today to make the very foolish decision to shoot a short and crowdfund for that short. Yeah, I'm making a horror short in February. I'm going to crowdfund for it in January. And then I'll have a sample to give people as I look for traditional investors for my horror feature. So I am, I made this silly decision. I was going to make this short from like pocket change. And then I talked to my DP, the person that always tells you to get more money.
Right.
And she was like, do you want it to look like pocket change, Liz? Or do you want it to really be a proof of concept for yourself and your feature? And I was like, fuck you, Julia, you beautiful genius. And so we're crowdfunding.
It's dangerous to talk to those cinematographers, isn't it?
Just like,
They
why?
get you every time.
She's right, though. I mean, we were going to make the entire short for what I thought I could afford, which is actually a good amount of money. Like, I probably could afford $5,000.
Oh, yeah.
But
that's a good number for a short, especially if it's a one-day shoot.
I think so, but it's a COVID situation, right? So
Good
it's not
old
going to
COVID.
cover the expenses, and so I'm going to crowdfund for, I think, another $5. So that's my plan that I just decided today on Twitter. So for the likes, I said it for the likes.
You said it for the likes. Well, can I grill you on this a little bit? I'm just curious.
Yeah, because it could change. Yeah, go for it.
No, I mean, first off, congratulations. Very exciting. Second off, is this a proof of concept for your feature you're writing? No.
It's a short unto itself, but it's in the same genre as the feature. So it's going to be, it has its own story, but it's feminist body horror, which is what the feature is.
Okay, so it's the same genre, same style, different story.
Yes.
And why did you decide to do that and not make it an actual, like, connected to the main story?
I think this is a really fun story that I just want to make. Like, I just want to make this. If it weren't, even if I didn't, like, need to have a proof that I can handle horror or, like, something completely different genre-wise, I'd want to make this film. Like, I came up with the idea and I was like, fuck, I really want to direct this.
And is this something that you just came up with or that you've had for a while?
Just came up with it, yeah.
Oh, wow. But it's not in the same world at all of the feature that you're writing.
No, and that's the other thing is the feature's not ready. So it's like for me to kind of like figure out what the proof of concept for the feature would be when I'm not convinced that the feature's even close to the quality that I need it to be. Like it just seems like more of a gamble to me to figure out a proof of concept idea when I have this short I really want to make and I already have the actors I really want to work with and the crew already figured out, but
Nice.
I don't think they'll necessarily transition the same characters over to the feature.
Right. So is the plan with this to do the traditional short film thing where you go to film festivals, all that stuff?
Yeah. Okay. It's to connect with the genre film community because right now they just see me as this like Nicole Holofcener wannabe. And not like they see me. They're not like people in the genre film community are like, Liz Medischel, let's talk about her. But I'm just saying if they were to see some of my work, they'd just be like, who is this girl? And then I can say, look, I made this. I want to be like one of you.
It sounds like you've had the experience of being laughed out of the room trying to raise funds for a horror film, and now you're like, I have to make a proof of concept to prove to these people. But I know, I know you haven't tried, yeah. But I mean, it makes sense because you're like basically preempting that. You're like, okay, I know I don't have any horror like work, behind me to show you guys that I can actually make this movie I want to make. So I'm going to make one. That makes total sense. That makes perfect sense.
And I think the other thing is I'm just really itchy to, it's like I quit my job 2 months ago now. I want to have more under my plate. I want to have more things that I can talk about and put out into the world. And I can't do a feature right now. It's just near impossible. I can't gather that budget. So I might as well just kind of like work my way and have fun and put another short out into the world.
And do you have you don't even have a script that you want to make yet either, right? For the feature?
The feature is 1/3 written and I'm finishing it by January 1st, but the short is essentially already written. I already have a script.
Right. Well, my point is that you couldn't even if you wanted to raise money for a feature, you don't have the feature yet. So it's hard to do that, right?
I think it needs a lot more time. Yeah. It needs more love.
Yeah, that makes sense. But that's awesome. Congratulations. It's a really exciting feeling to be taking on a new project and you get all excited about the creativity, that you're putting into it and how it's going to look and what it's going to be and what it's going to do and all those things. So that's awesome.
And it just will be fun. Something that just seems really silly and fun, which is what I'm looking to it as. And every time I pitch it, someone laughs and that makes me really, really happy.
Awesome.
But what are you up to? I know you're so close. You're so close to finishing. What is going on?
Right. So I picture locked officially, which is great. I finally locked picture. I did it last week or 2 weeks ago.
The alternate. Sorry, we have to say that because what if people are like, what? Tell me more about Alrik. Okay.
On the alternate, which I've been working on for almost 8 years now, or over 8 years now. I can't remember. It's been a long time. But yeah, so I picture locked a couple weeks ago. I have the visual effects with the visual effects team. They're starting. The sound is with the sound team. They're starting. And then the color is like they prepared all the plates for visual effects. So the colorist has already kind of gotten to look at things. And then I still owe the colorist one more XML, but I'm basically ready to hit export on that now at this point. Cause I got him the reference files he needs and everything. So yeah, it's I have 2 more things I can do for the movie, but then basically after that, I'm just waiting for the rest of these guys to finish their work. I secured funding for post, which I probably haven't talked about. So that's good. It took a long time. I mean, it literally we kind of thought we had the source. We didn't know we had the source. We found another source. That source went away. Then we finally, the one that we thought we had, finally committed, and I think I should have the first deposit in my bank now.
Is this the person you were talking about who is 100% committed from the very beginning, so invested in the project, and then kind of got a little squirrely after post-production started?
A little, but I mean, it's not necessarily fair to him because he did invest, but then we just thought he was always going to come in for more, and then it was uncertain basically once the movie was done if he was, and it was basically up to me to make a movie that was good enough for him to want to actually finish.
And you did it. You made it good enough.
It took a lot, and it was we worked on it in post probably a lot longer than I would have if I had all the money myself and I didn't have this partner that I was working with. I probably would have picture locked in August or even maybe July, but since I had this other person who was kept on pushing, and I didn't have the funds, it's well, let's keep working on it, make it better. And then we finally got to a place where I loved it. I love it more now than I ever have, and he loves it as well. So I think we're in a good spot. At the end, it was really hard for me to watch it and even know it was good anymore because I've seen it so many times, and it's just you're just going over the fine, tiny little details. And I think not having an editor was challenging because then you don't have someone to back up the decisions editorially. It's all on you, and so it was a challenge, but I'm really happy with where it's at. I'm really excited. We've already submitted to a bunch of film festivals, with the work in progress cut and
Sci-Fi London.
definitely we'll go to Sci-Fi London. My producer doesn't have any connections there. So we're trying to like hit up all the places he has connections at, which we got a few waivers from, which was great. But yeah, I'm going to do Chattanooga, which I know Matt Enlow, friend of the show, is a huge fan of. And also Joe Bob Briggs is a huge fan of too, which is cool.
Phoenix Film Festival.
Yeah, I'll do Phoenix.
Okay. Next year.
Yeah. But, you know, all the big ones, Tribeca, South by Southwest, Sundance, all that stuff. I mean, but, you know, they're all long shots in the dark. You know, I guess the big one that I'm hoping for is Fantasia, which we haven't submitted to. And by the time they open, we should be completely finished. And so I think it'll be better to show a final cut with the visual effects. So that's the big thing. And then like, yeah, I'm just trying. I think I'm finally ready to start writing my next movie. And so I have a bunch of different ideas, and I've got to really just take a day and like write all the ideas out and like think about which one I'm going to work on and what direction I'm going to go. Cause I get constantly tugged in different directions by my mind of like, oh, you should write a movie about this, or, oh, this script you worked on before is like really awesome. Like keep working on that one, you know? But then it's like hard because a lot of the ideas I have are bigger budget ideas, like over a couple million or more, you know. And
but could you write to sell? Like, could that be a goal, or you never would want to do that?
I could. I'd rather write to sell with me as the director.
Sure, of course.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it just needs to be whatever wants to come out to work on next. And then my buddy Alex Kellerman, friend of the show, who have you met? You probably haven't met Alex.
I've
Kellerman.
talked to him, but
You have talked to him.
But I have not met him.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, he's a great guy, and he's writing the feature version of one of my shorts, Brother, which he says is almost done. So like when that's done, that might become the next thing that I like really try to get out into the world, because you know, I love that story. I love his pitch on it. I love the idea that he had for it, and I think it could be really good. So yeah, lots of exciting things going on, you know. I just met with a friend about maybe directing some music videos for her. So see if that happens. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, see, you're on set a lot, you know, like you're also scratching that itch regularly. That's such a weird phrase, but you're regularly like on set working the craft. So I think that's what's also really great about what you do, is that like you're constantly exercising.
It's different though, because when you're not directing, it's a completely different muscle, and like it's a completely different level of you know, engagement with the craft, because it's like it's not up to me to decide what we're gonna make or how we're gonna make something look. It's just up to me to make sure it gets done and that we have the tools we need. So yeah, that's why the directing the music video seems nice, because it's like, okay, this is a chance for me to be fully creative and partner with somebody and make something really cool that's like I can have my own stamp on, you know. Because like, yes, I haven't really directed much since The Alternate, just one corporate video, and that's it. So,
I mean, I've just done this short Lena, you know, so I get it. But I think that's also why I'm like, just do another short.
Yeah, would I do another
but
short?
But not for you.
I
You did
would.
a bunch of shorts before you did the feature. I didn't do that, so
I probably would do another short though, but it would probably have to be a proof of concept, like something that I was going to use to raise money, you know. I just want to make something else and like kind of figure out what the next project is, because I had this, you know, for so long, it's like I had this movie that was this thing that I needed to do, and now it's like pretty much done, almost done. It's like I kind of feel like Thanos, where he's like, my work is done and now I get to rest. I kind of feel like that. Like I get to rest now. And it's like, well, but what's next? Like I don't want to just go to a planet and cook stew or whatever and wait to be murdered. I want to, like, you know, want to make another movie. So it's like trying to figure out what the next thing I'm going to devote like the next like 5+ years of my life to. Like that's sort of what I'm in that hunter mode right now, trying to find that next thing.
If you want unsolicited advice, you should devote the next 5 years to 20 different projects. You should diversify.
You think so?
Yeah, you need to have your fingers in like 15 different thimbles or whatever.
As a director in all of them, or just whatever.
Few as a director, few as a producer.
Right.
Mix
right.
it
Well,
up.
I mean, I already do that. Like I have a movie I produced in February that's coming out probably next year, and you know, there's already all the little pies, but yeah, I guess I want to find the big pie. Like, what's that? Because you don't you feel that way? Don't you feel like you always have one main thing that you're like is the biggest thing, and then there's littler things underneath?
Well, Lady Parts was that for a while, right? And I'm still thinking it's going to go in the summer, but until it's not real until it's real.
Right.
And I have this idea for another feature that I can't even like verbalize. I can't even put it on paper, but it's just this feeling.
Right.
Wait, I know this is not a capping off that idea, but I wanted to bring up the fact that I re-listened the first time I was ever on this podcast in 2016, I think, maybe
God,
2017.
wow.
And I re-listened to you and Timothy interview me, and first of all, I'm very unlikable in that interview. And then second of all, like I dispense bad advice to people.
What do you say?
I'm like on my hike listening to myself and I'm like, I can't believe I just said that. I was telling people to apply wide to film festivals. Just apply widely to film festivals. And it's like, that's not.
You don't think so?
No, I mean, you got to be very strategic. You don't want to waste your money. You don't go wide. You you go regional or niche but I just think it's funny that like, whatever, I just think no one should have listened to me. But no one should listen to me now, but no one should have listened to me 4 years ago.
Right. Well, I think you must have been at least somewhat likable because we've brought you back on the podcast time and time again, and now you co-host it, so you couldn't have been
nice to hear Timothy, though. I was like, oh, Timothy's like really he's like unrelenting with certain questions. And I was like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He won't stop until he gets the answer that he wants. Or at least the question that he wanted to hear the answer to, that he gets some version of the answer, to that question.
No, I thought I was very cool. I was like, oh, he's good. Yeah. Sorry, that has nothing to do with anything, but I wanted to mention how charming you guys were 4 years ago. All of that's gone now, of course, but...
No, it's all down the drain now. It's terrible. It's too bad that he doesn't want to do it anymore and that he's not in the filmmaking zone any longer, but maybe he will be once again, Yeah. But the other thing, when he left, Matt and Lauren Kaplan from Just Shoot It so badly wanted to have me and him on to talk about the ending of his filmmaking career, and he refused.
I get that. Like, I don't know if I'd want to extrapolate on a really personal decision like that,
But it was such a good opportunity to discuss what we've been talking about for the last 3 or 4 years or whatever it was at that time, because you were always saying that it's maybe it's time to move on to something else if it's you don't love it or it's not rewarding to you or not fulfilling you or whatever, it's it's okay to quit. We used to say that, oh, it's okay to quit, it's not a big deal. And he did. It's just interesting. It would have been a really interesting conversation to talk to him about that openly, but I guess he wasn't ready or interested.
Maybe we could bring him back.
Oh God, I've tried.
We'll just
I tried
do our
2 years
1-2
ago.
punch, our Joe Bob Briggs tactic, which is, I write a letter and it gets ignored, and then a month later we write another letter and it gets answered.
Oh my God! If only that worked all the time, and not just that once. All right. Well, this has been really interesting to hear what you've been up to, and
you too.
Makes me want to make stuff. I want to go out and shoot something.
Get itchy. And it's so fun to feel that high of the new project. We'll see. We'll see how long it lasts. Yeah,
no, I can't wait to see the behind the scenes and then eventually see the movie in a year or so when it's done. What's up with Lena? When's that coming out?
Well, it's in festival submissions, so we're waiting to hear back what our premiere is. But it's done. It's done. And Erica, awesome. I'm positive, is listening to this right now because she listens to every single episode. She does listen to every episode. And she's just such a joy and such a talented actress. So I want. Is she the star? Yeah, she wrote it, and she's the star. And wow, yeah, she's fantastic.
Okay, let's move on. We should probably do the thing that we normally do where we talk about what you could do if you wanted to reach us, which apparently no one wanted to reach us this week, so that's okay.
It's been a busy week for people.
It's been a busy week. I get it. But if you want, you can send us a question, comment, or suggestion to podcast@makingmoviesishard.com. Or if you really like the show a lot, you can leave us a review on iTunes or any of the other places you can leave reviews for this podcast, which I think is Stitcher and maybe a couple other places. Or just a rating. You don't even have to write anything. You could just hit the stars that you think we deserve and give us those. That would be great. We also have a Patreon page, so if you really, really love the show and you want to support us, you can go over to patreon.com/MMIH podcast and give us $1, $4 for a sticker. Is that right, Liz?
Yeah.
And then if you want to go all the way up to $9, you'll get a fancy enamel pin, which are so awesome. And I still need to figure out where I'm going to put mine. Should I put it on a shirt or something. I don't know, but yeah, I'm a big fan of those. And then lastly, you should go over to our Instagram page and you should check out the link in our bio to our new YouTube page and go over there and like our YouTube page, subscribe to it, and then you should comment on them and we'll read what you say right here on this podcast. But Liz,
What?
do you have some soap dish to us?
Why, I do. All right, so this new filmmaker named Paul Notice is sharing a little bit more about his latest project, Willow, and he self-submitted a 5-minute piece about, why he's making it and how he's doing it.
We don't usually do this. Like, we very rarely will have people on the podcast who have crowdfunding campaigns because it's just not a thing that we do. And, I don't feel like people really want to be sold crowdfunding campaigns all the time, but I just thought this was a really interesting project and he seemed like a really interesting filmmaker. So I'm really curious to hear what he has to say about his project, and then you guys can decide, does he deserve a $5 donation, a $20 donation, 0 donations? I don't know. Let's find out when we hear from Paul.
I'm Lori Craven, and I'm an actress.
An actress? Really? How nice for you. I'm Betsy Faye Sharon, and I'm a bitch.
Hey, I am Paul Notice, the writer and an executive producer of Willow. And yes, here are the answers to your questions. I know it's like a little bit of a different format. I had to remember all the things I wanted to talk about in the answers and stuff, so I wrote them down here. But apart from that, I'll do my best to be off book. Oh, also just thank you for bringing me on. I feel so honored to be on this podcast. I listen to us a lot. It's hilarious. Yeah, there's gonna be that strange thing. I have to hear my voice. All right, great. So I'm gonna go on and answer, and I will try my best not to lift it up too much. So after 7 years of working on this film, why are you able to make it now? This film was very heady. I mean, it's about people feeding on each other in order to survive. So that already is just a heady, what? Like, are you talking about vampires? Are you talking about zombies? Are we talking about some weird form of cannibalism or something like that? If you add that to just the, I would say, pervasive sense of white supremacy that just lives in regular, everyday, mainstream theater and cinema, it was hard to find people who would accept both the concept, and then on top of that, you have a all-black cast, all-black principal cast with 90% women as the characters. So during those 7 years, I got so much rejection, and shouts to the people that did say yes to like at least workshops and small things there, people who did want to like make this concept work or make this project work. But I got a lot of rejections. 2013, there's a workshop with New York Theater Workshop. I went through so many revisions. So that took time, and I had to find the right people. I think the reason why it's great now is because I found a capable and talented team of producers. So I had all that at the beginning of 2020, and then the pandemic happened, and it did delay the movie, but ironically enough, I got the money to finance that and the equipment that we would use for shooting the trailer and also for other production things too. I got that through an SBA loan for my nonprofit. And it was made possible because of the efforts that the United States government went through, despite who's in the White House right now. The SBA loan actually, ironically enough, and it worked for me. It's wild. So that's really what kicked off us being able to work our way through this pandemic. I had that. We were able to shoot. We were able to pull everything together. I mean, even just learning the safety guidelines from SAG-AFTRA for shooting in a pandemic. I mean, that by itself was a challenge, but we got through that. But it all started once I got approval for that loan, and once that money was there, what? It was game time. Do you have any funds raised before you launched your campaign? Yeah, we already started talking to friends, family, associates and everything before the crowdfunding campaign launched. So my mom and my grandma already sent checks right away, which was just, a surprise, which was great. Sometimes you don't realize you need something until you have it and you're just like, thank you. Makes me want to cry, I'm not gonna lie to you. But yes, yeah. We started doing that, and I put like $15K of my own cash into that, purchasing a lot of the equipment that we're gonna be using and that we already did use in the trailer, the lighting equipment and stuff, and also the paying people. Paying people and doing the crazy set build out that I had to do for Sasha Obama's office. We have a lot of custom pieces and props that we purchased, so that just cuts down on a lot. So yeah. We did a little bit of spending before we launched this campaign for sure. Besides writing scripts, what other preps have you done for the film and get ready for it? I mean, man. Yeah, okay, so one of the first things we did was do a full, complete line item budget. We had to have a full production plan. We developed a production outline, a tentative rehearsal schedule, a crew list, and a list of crew referrals. Along with that, we have a marketing plan. We have a distribution plan with like different types of point A through C. And because of all of our combined resources and talent, we were able to come up with a really nice sizable number. It was $69,000 that if we get that, we can actually get through principal photography. At the bare minimum, we can get through that. And the larger budget is $120,000, right? That is the bare minimum budget if you want to get the whole thing made from pre-production, principal photography, post-production, marketing, distribution, everything, start to finish. We can do it for $120,000. That's the bare minimum, the cheapest that we can do a pretty quality film. If we want to go crazy, if we're able to raise more, of course, it'll go more into special effects and everything else. But we can make a film for $120,000. What we need to make at the very bare minimum, for us to get to that second phase, principal photography, we needed $69,000, and that's what we're raising. This project is meant to serve as a guide point. So you think of it as a Green New Deal for Hollywood's problem with race. And when I say race, I want to make sure that everyone knows, when people say race in that context, it means white supremacy. So this film is meant to confront Hollywood's problem with white supremacy. Oops, I said it out loud. Yeah. But let's not mince words. Chauvinism, transphobia, homophobia, xenophobia, all of these things, obviously anti-black racism, those are reasons why mainstream depictions of marginalized groups are too often disguised attempts at cultural violence. Willow and films like Willow are meant to challenge that. So yeah, you can support by going to bit.ly/Willow Horror, or you can like and share and just come and watch our stuff. Listen, y'all, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I really do. This is awesome. I daydreamed a lot about being on this show and talking about like my own stuff. It's really weird to do it. It's so surreal. So thank you for entertaining me and having me on your show. I appreciate it, for sure.
Let's get to our conversation with April Mullen.
I am plugged in and I am ears on.
Well, thank you, April. So our first question for our rapid fire round is for Wander. How many days did you shoot?
22.
And what was your budget?
Very puny, not what you think. Below the line was like the same as my indie films. I can't really give a real response, but it's not good.
Well, okay.
I would get a huge licking if I told the truth.
I mean, no one ever says like, oh, it was a massive amount of money. It was so vast. Like no, everyone always says it was less than you would expect or very little.
This is very, very indie. Although the stars are huge and the cast is huge, it's the below the line was very puny, like credit cards and all. You know what I mean?
Right.
The things they say don't do, April, don't ever do that again. And I just keep doing that.
How long did you work on the film from the inception, the idea stage to its release?
5 years.
Wow. And then how big was your crew?
Our crew was about 40 people in total. It was small. We were lightweight. We were able to move, and we shot in the town of Carrizozo, New Mexico. And so there were a lot of locals, and we brought a bunch of Canadians that I had worked with on previous films, like our DP, our production designer, our editor, were all Canadian. So there was a mixed match. It was really nice coming together.
Out of all your projects, how difficult was this one?
You know what's funny? I thought Dead Before Dawn 3D, seeing that it was like the first 3D film made in Canada, was going to be a lot harder on a $1.2 million budget. I thought that was like insanity because we were like making a quasar rig and like inventing technology to shoot 3D. I thought that was it for me. Like, it was never going to get harder. It was always going to be 2D, like so simple from now on. And how could anything be harder than shooting a technology that we couldn't afford in a medium that like was still discovering itself? But Wander was harder. And, you know, it's odd. Like, Dead Before Dawn was 10 years ago. And I wish I could say, oh, you know, I could pinpoint what made Wander harder. But I believe it was all of everything that happened. Like, it was very difficult to get the film financed and off the ground. Like 5 years, you know, writing and just really trying to get the right, you know, cast. And then when we were shooting, it just, we were handcuffed in so many ways. Like, every day was riding that roller coaster that is, are we going to make our day? You know, and I have my beautiful, like, perfectly planned shot list as per usual, like all organized. We've blocked everything. Everything's all ready. But the first day there was a huge monsoon that came through the desert, and none of our other locations were ready. None of our actors were there. So we had to, you know, not shoot the one-er shot and that opens the film, which was 3 hours of time. And we were just like, how are we ever going to make up this 3 hours? Because there was like no wiggle room in the schedule. I was also being overly ambitious with like sunset and sunrises, and, you know, maybe that was it. Like, I was just harder on myself in general. But gosh, I think Wander was the hardest one, and it shouldn't be. It should have been the first feature, but it was a big concept, and it was just wildly ambitious for what we had.
Was it like you should have had a 30-day shooting schedule and then you had to like knock it down to a 22 shooting day schedule? Is that one of the reasons why it was so hard? Because you just had less time?
Yes, that is part of it. And I think just raising the finances to put together, like, Tim, my producing partner, and I started from the ground up doing micro budget features out of Canada. So we were very used to the financial structures in Canada, where to source our financing. You know, Telefilm Canada, OMDC, we have strong support and tax credits here. And then in the US, it was our first time financing completely out of our comfort zone. And it was just a lot more challenging than you could ever imagine to raise the funds. Like, at the very last minute, right as we're like, you know, casting Tommy Lee Jones and people are flying in, somebody came, you know, a private investor fell out, and, you know, you have 48 hours to try and fill that gap.
When you have Tommy Lee Jones, someone pulls out, that's insane.
I know. Well, it's just like, I wasn't used to that because in Canada, those things don't happen. It's so like, cross your T's, dot your I's, and it's very secure because it's like 3 years of putting together financing. Whereas in the US, like, a private investor can, you know, drop out at any time really, and things happen and funds don't show up. And I just wasn't, as a producer, I wasn't used to that. And so, you know, those kind of things happening at the last minute, and then trying to navigate that as quickly as possible and stay positive and stay the course and get the film made was just like an extra kind of hiccup. Like, creatively, I can always handle the hiccups, but the financial stuff, it's not so fun.
Like, why come to the US? I mean, obviously, there's some exciting parts of the US box office that maybe a domestic film might have more access to. I mean, I don't actually know if that's true, but why did you move from the Canadian financing system to these private equity investors?
To challenge ourselves. You know, you want to grow as producers, you want to grow as filmmakers, you want to be a part of Hollywood because that's where the industry's heartbeat kind of lies. And so, of course, we jumped in full feet and wanted access to bigger cast. And, you know, we really wanted to set the film in New Mexico because conspiracy theories and like MK Ultra and all of our research with Roswell, really the truth of that land and the history behind what's happened in New Mexico, or the conspiracy, but I believe what's happened in New Mexico was so important to the story. And so we were really fighting for that, to be able to shoot in New Mexico and take advantage of the landscape, the history, the kind of like the spirit, the energy that location contains. And that's nowhere else in the world. Like for our story, for Wander, it was somewhere in New Mexico. We didn't know where. Like when we started our location scouting, we were really on the hunt for a small town, which, to be honest, New Mexico is a lot more populated than we thought, and a lot more modern than we thought. The cities were big, the population was huge. So we really did have to hunt. And then we found the most perfect character in the film and town, which was Carrizozo, New Mexico. And that's why we had to stray away as well, for, away from Canada, because we didn't have that history nor that landscape in terms of like the conspiracy world and human testing and what's happened in New Mexico.
So if you get your funding from Canada, you have to shoot in Canada. You can't shoot outside of Canada. Is that the rule, or?
No, there's different rules with every single country. So depending on the country, there are co-productions that are phenomenal and in place, and there are awesome rules. But unfortunately, the biggest country in the world that, is making turnaround the, most amount of films and TV is the United States. And we don't have a co-production with the US. So there's nothing that really allows us to cross borders in a very economical and, profitable in terms of budgets and tax credits way that makes sense for the producer. That needs to change. It doesn't right now exist. I wish it did, because it would have made things a lot easier. But US productions can always come to Canada, and the tax credits of shooting here on location in Canada still holds true. So the US productions that are shooting here are receiving tax credits from the government for hiring Canadians and shooting on Canadian land. But the reverse doesn't happen. But we did receive New Mexico tax credits.
Oh, good. We're not 100% horrible.
No, not at all. And
no.
They were so supportive. The New Mexico film community, they were so helpful. They were really, really opening their arms and kind, and helped us navigate those waters.
Well, there seems to be a burgeoning film scene. I mean, it's like that's why Netflix moved their production hub there. I've friends who just moved there to Albuquerque. I think it's super interesting. For those who haven't seen the film, and to get a little bit more insight into your creative process as a writer, can you talk a little bit about the origin of you finding out about these stories?
Yes. So Tim Doran, my producing partner and longtime writing partner, we've worked together for 20 years. And I think this is our 6th film, but we've collaborated. So when we finished 88, we were which was about a fugue state, we were sort of coming together and like, what are we gonna create next? What do we want to create next? Where are we at in our careers? Where are our voices at? What do we have to say? And Tim at the time was going through mental health issues in terms of dealing with paranoia, government surveillances, being watched by Big Brother, the fact that our phones are tapped, internet's tapped, everything's, being kind of navigated in weird advertisement ways to you, and the fact that we're, our every move is now currently being analyzed and watched for consumerism and other reasons, and all of that. Basically, he was struggling with that and having enormous amounts of anxiety, and had these little signs all over his apartment like, I am powerful, I am protected, like we see in the movie with Arthur, our main character. So as we were sort of talking about that world, he thought it would be interesting, and so did I, that our lead character actually be going through what probably a lot of people are nowadays, is this fear of surveillance, government surveillance, conspiracy theories, and what's real and what's not, and are we being watched at all times, and for what purposes? And that can really cause a huge fear and anxiety of leaving the house. So was there a way to truthfully bring that into our lead character? And then we had to kind of fictionalize a story around that. So we thought if there was a way where he had to force himself through his biggest fear, which for him was the conspiracy, that somebody was behind the act that killed his daughter. If he had to face that fear front on as our hero, as a silent warrior, would he be able to leave his Winnebago that he's been, isolated from the world? Would he be able to face those fears? What would that look like? How would that journey unravel? And, dealing with panic attacks and delusions, and trying to deal with medication management and everything on your own. We just thought that that was a really great kind of truthful, side of things to bring to a lead character. Tim and I are both huge on conspiracies and, really shedding a light to those who are fighting for the truth and the light in the world. We call them the silent warriors, who are out there every day trying to shed light on the truth and share that information with people, audiences, and really admire those people. And we wanted to pay homage to that. And so that's kind of how it started. And that was the seed, so to speak.
So I guess, like, you made so many films, like you guys have like an amazing track record. And so going into Wander, you're talking about all these issues with financing and, trying to get the money together. And I understand going from a Canadian, type of fundraising to American is tough, but like, I want to talk about like what, like once you did get like your base investors, like what was your process to casting the film? Like, how did that come about?
So, believe it or not, Aaron Eckhart was the first actor we went to for the role of Arthur. That being said, it took him a long time to actually get a response and read the script. I think we waited 8 months, and at the same time, we were also trying to finance the film, and we were working on the script, and I was working on my shot list. Like, there was lots going on, but we really believed that for all kinds of reasons, we believed that Aaron Eckhart was Arthur Bretnick. And lo and behold, when he actually did get his hands on the script, Chad Birdie gave us a call and said, he loves the script. He's interested, which is a producer on the film. And we met in Los Angeles. We flew down, met in Los Angeles, the three of us. And it was like a coming together of minds. Like, I left that meeting thinking, oh my gosh, could there not be another human being more perfect? Like, we can't make this film unless it's with him, even if I have to wait a decade. He strongly believes in government surveillance, conspiracies, knows about MK Ultra, knew about the Illuminati. He was so current in terms of those subject matters, and even knew more than, we could ever have imagined. Like, he brought so much to the table and connected so tightly to the story of, avenging the daughter's death and fighting for that. And he is a light warrior. He always says he's a light warrior. He's fighting for the light. And we left that just saying, like, this is just written in the stars. Like, Aaron Eckhart as that role was just written in the stars. And I had never seen him do anything like that in his career. Like, he's normally, and he's very handsome and such a charismatic energy. And he's played, in romantic comedies, and something like this, like so raw and so vulnerable and so indie. There's like an indie spirit to even Arthur, even the character, and disheveled and broken. I just thought, how is this going to play out? And then the moment when we met him, it was just like, he is perfect for this. He's just beyond perfect. And then once we had Aaron, it was a lot easier because, when agents and managers are reading the script, we had Aaron Eckhart to sort of picture as that lead character. And that really helped get other actors and actresses on board. And Tommy Lee Jones was last to the table because we couldn't find the right Jimmy. And again, we were in Carrizozo, New Mexico. We were 2 weeks away from shooting, and I still hadn't found our Jimmy. And then we flew to Los Angeles to the Beverly Hills Hotel late at night. And we were there for 12 hours, met for lunch. He had some questions about the script. I sort of explained my vision and went through photos and the locations that we were planning to shoot at. And by the time we landed back in Carrizozo and drove like 4 hours to our little town, we had gotten a yes. So, that was the last puzzle piece, which I thought Jimmy was going to be cast 6 months prior to, but it just turned out that, people were committed and then they were falling apart, and then it just worked. And then I cannot picture anyone else but Tommy Lee Jones as the role of Jimmy now. And I just feel like it was just the right, we had to wait for the right, perfect opportunity to approach him. And I'm so grateful that it was Tommy and Aaron, because they're dynamic, like electrical, kind of magnetic conversations in the film. I just would be at the monitor in awe and just like, okay, we have a movie. This is it.
As you're talking to cast, crew members, financiers, are you pushing that impact angle of the film? Or are you talking about the story? Are you saying, your love of conspiracy theories and the fear of government surveillance and all these things? Is that at the forefront of your pitch, or is that something you just shared with Aaron because you saw something in him that was a kindred spirit?
Yeah, that's definitely something I shared with Aaron and people like you who are kind of like wanting to know the behind the scenes, the truth behind like why we made what we did. But for like the hardcore pitch and for sales and for distributors, it's seen as a psychological thriller with action elements, and it's going to keep you guessing till the end. It's entertaining, it's fast paced. Yes, it involves very current subject matters like border control and chip technology and diving deeper into those. And it's about grief and a hero coming through to the light on the other side. But that's like my micro pitch to those guys, because they don't want to hear about all the other stuff in a lot of ways. They want to make sure it's sellable, that audiences want to see it, that there's a hunger and an appetite for that kind of content in the marketplace right now. They need to know that people are going to click yes and buy it and download it because that's what their job is. And I don't blame them, and I always want to make content that will be seen, because at the end of the day, as a filmmaker, why we do what we do is to share. We want to share our stories, and we want to affect people and inspire people. And it's a fine line between commercialism and also trying to say something original and unique, but making sure you can make your money back and keep financiers happy so you can make another movie. Otherwise, you get a reputation of costing too much and not making enough, which is terrifying, because all we're doing really is trying our hardest.
So going back to the casting, you said that you were still financing when you approached Aaron Eckhart in the beginning. Like, what was what was it like an ask? Oh, join our movie, sign on, then we'll raise the money, or like what do you tell Aaron's agents in that situation in order to get him to read the script and give you guys a shot?
You have to be like somewhat financed. You don't have to be all the way financed, because financing depends so much on the cast and the numbers through the algorithms of who knows what. Blah, 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 blah. Netflix like decides who's going to bend the numbers into which direction. Those things, that's another beast. But you do have to have, I would say, like 50% of your financing in line. And obviously producers with reputable production companies and who have made films before and kind of have a good track record. If you say you're 50% financed and this is your plan for the rest, and these are your sales agents that are on board, usually they're fine with reading the script and they understand that the rest is a business and we can't move forward with full financing until we're cast, because the budget might also shift depending on your stars. If you think you can achieve more with certain casts, the budget might go up a bit, and if that's not possible, you have to be smart and be more economical, because you might not sell in international territories. All of those things come into play later on after cast is kind of nailed down creatively.
I want to jump to TV. Can I jump to TV, Alrik? I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for it. So, I mean, both Alrik and I have worked in the micro budget feature space. So we understand bootstraps filmmaking and getting it off the ground. And you said that you had done some micro budget content, but TV is a whole nother beast, right? And so I'm just curious how you leveraged your feature filmmaking career into a very successful television directing career, and kind of the relationship of promoting one to get to the other and vice versa.
That's a great question. I think it is a fine line and a balance, because you can kind of only make a feature every other year, every third year, if you're lucky, because they take so much of your creative energy. I stand by the film and I see it through composing, color correction. I'm there every day. I don't just like come in for a last day supervision. I'm really really hands-on. So if you're doing a feature, your time is dedicated to that. And then to try and also balance a TV career, they want to see original content. Which might not have been the case in the past. I don't think TV directors were necessarily looked at in the feature world. I think it was kind of more separate. But now that TV has become so creative and so unique, and there's strong voices in television right now, and it's an art form, a strong art form. It's not as formulaic as it might have been. they want to see original content. So like they want to see movies, but when are you supposed to make them in the amount of time when you're supposed to also be like getting better and shooting TV series, and making sure that you can continue your career in television. You know, to do Wander, I had to turn down, which might have been my busiest and best TV year yet, but I needed at least 8 months. Then I kind of dipped out in between and did Tiny Pretty Things with Netflix, and then Blood and Treasure. And I was sort of editing at the same time, which was tough. You know, you're overlapping, but it's necessary to be able to like still have food on the table, so to speak. And with TV, you get to enter new and big genres for a short amount of time and really test your skills. Like, you know, you have a huge crew, the budget's there, a really tight turnaround. You have all the gear you want. You can pitch wild ideas now, and showrunners actually go for it. Like, I'm always surprised. I'm in the room and I'm like, what about this? You know, and I sort of think, I wonder how this is going to go down. And I get a yes. Like, I think they're very open to filmmakers, and as long as you make your days, because in TV, the timeline is very tight. But if you're from the indie world, you're kind of like used to that. Like for me, the transition was very easy. It was seamless. It to me felt a lot easier than the independent cinema I had done, probably because we were producing and, you know, directing and all at once. And TV felt like summer camp. Not that I'm supposed to say that, I guess, but I was just like, it's the same time constraints in this like very efficiently run, but you have like 50% more people and humans to help you. And they've all been there, you know, for a year. So they know everything back, you know, backwards and forwards. And then you have all the gear in the world you want. For the most part, you're like 2 crane days. But to be told that and just have those, you know, and rather than making the decisions on like, how am I going to shoot this? Let me see if I can try to weave these things together for my schedule. In a feature film, it's so much more dense. And I loved working in TV because I was allowed freedom, but also in a very safe space.
Did you jump into the world through representation, or was it a direct reach, or how did you start directing TV?
So when I started directing TV, the women in film movement, not that it would have changed things, but I have to say, I think it would have changed things dramatically. I was way earlier on. So it was very rare for women to be directing TV. And I remember in my first, you know, few interviews, they're just like, we've had one female director and she didn't really take charge. So now there's like a tainted kind of outlook on female directors. And I was just like things that today, if
what a weird thing to say,
were aware of, you could just get married. It'd be so much easier. You know, there's not a lot of female directors. You're young right now. You have a window to get married and just marry up. And I was just like those were my interviews, to be honest, with like network execs at the time. Like, this is 15 years ago, right? Me trying to break into TV. I had done 2 features, maybe 3.
Wow.
I haven't told many people that story because I don't usually like to go down that route, but it was odd. I remember being so discouraged. And believe it or not, I had done 4 features, and there was, you know, somebody was considering kind of hiring me on my first TV show, but I had no experience in TV, and I had to shadow. So I shadowed on Beauty and the Beast, and then I shadowed on Rain. And, you know, when you're shadowing, you don't get paid. You have to take a month off of your time, and you have to be there on set every day. I was observing, and it was a new landscape. So I'm glad I did it, but it was also kind of like, you know, I had done those things with my eyes closed because I kind of had done that for almost 10 years. But you had to pay your dues. It's a new art form. It's a new medium. And so I shadowed, and then I got a Montreal series, which was had doc elements, and it was shot in 5 days. And it was a real true crime series, real detective. And Petro, the showrunner, we were vying for the pilot. So writing and directing the pilot with my writing partner, Tim Doran. And we had pitched this incredible series. And so we didn't get the pilot because we weren't experienced enough in TV, but he believed enough in us to hire us, which was fantastic.
Gosh, I had a few questions around the TV stuff. I mean, like when you were shadowing, Do you feel like you learned something from the shadowing experience that you didn't know, or do you really feel like it was just like, oh, I'm only doing this because I have to, kind of thing?
No, once I was shadowing, I invested. Like I invested, I was present, I really gave it my all. I was, you know, thinking of ways that I would shoot it and like kind of shot listing and seeing how I would make my days work. Like I gave it my all and learned a lot from the whole experience just from afar. But definitely you kind of get what you put in. And I think it was an important experience. You know, it was different and it was helpful. And I did learn a lot. I think it's helpful anytime you're on set. You don't usually, as a director, get to see other directors direct because you're always kind of just handing off the baton as you cross paths for maybe like 2 hours on a TV series. So it was interesting just to see another director approach material and how they approach actors and how they approach blocking and what their personality is like in each different kind of, you know, facet of it. That I found very intriguing.
So when you come into a TV show, like, are you trying, like, do you watch like a bunch of episodes of the show previous to your episode and like kind of study the show and like try to bring ideas that are similar to what you've seen before? Or do you come in just like with your free creative mind and just like pitch whatever you think would be perfect for this episode that you're working on and then kind of hope that the showrunner gives you a shot? Like, how do you approach that process?
It's definitely a lot more meticulously planned than like just coming in blind. I definitely watch the show. I do my research and whatever, like, let's say I step into season 2, but I'm in episode 4, I'll request the scripts that happened previous. So I make sure I know where the characters' arcs are and where the series is going. And if they have further on kind of episodes, I love to read those too, just to get a really big picture of where the season is headed. And tonally, I take notes of, you know, editing style, what their tone is, each actor where they've kind of been pushed and where you see kind of their talent shine and where I would like to kind of even steer them even in a bigger direction. And I really pay attention to their little nuances and potentially you can kind of also see their weaknesses and how to help them there by watching, you know, the series. And then also I love referencing and seeing what the cinematographers are doing and what their kind of personalities like in terms of the way the show is lit and even like camera moves and stuff, because you don't want to go in and propose a hyper, a big zoom and a long lens when, the show is shot in medium and it's more about, the space or something. Like you just have to be really aware of tonally what the show is. But then once I have a strong grasp of that and I feel really confident with what I've seen, I look at my scripts, my personal scripts, and sort of decipher where might be some really unique spots where I could bring some of like the Mullen splash to the script I have. I don't know, sometimes there's those elements where you could be like, oh, I have a really, amazing idea that I could add to this and bring a little bit of a flair that still fits the mold, but also it gives the series a new edge that it might not have had. Or there's this incredible chase sequence where you get to go through bridges and you can propose, I want to do pop zooms here because I think it might be really unique and new and cool James Bond move that we can't afford on this budget level. But if we do this, you sort of pitch them in different ways. And the showrunners are usually very open and honest. And if they think it still works, they'll say, go for it. And I usually give visual references. Sometimes you get to work with the DP before and sometimes you don't. But in my binder, I have usually photographs or hand kind of drawings, or, I always have my overhead kind of blocking schemes and everything in my binder. So at all times I can sort of show the visual key elements to the team. And that just makes communication so much easier. So I always have that on hand. And that's always benefited me in TV, especially when there's no time. You can just be like, oh, and this is what I was thinking here. I love this overshot from Run Lola Run. Can we do that for this upcoming scene? And they're just like, yes, done. Good.
You are very prolific, clearly, as a director and as a writer, but you're also an actress. And so I want to hear also how you make time to act, how you prioritize that in your projects. If you stipulate it in the things you produce, like how do you advocate for yourself as an actress in addition to yourself as a filmmaker?
I haven't been acting in a very long time, but that doesn't mean that I don't get to be with I get to be with actors all the time. So I
Do you
absolutely
miss it?
I love acting. And no, I don't miss it because I feel like I'm surrounded by it constantly. And I'm involved in intertwining and like communicating with actors and pushing them to do more and take bigger risks. Like the thing I miss the most, and this happened to me at a young age when I was like in grade 6, I think, 6 or 7. I was very shy and very reserved in elementary school. And there was this improv like class. And I didn't even know really what that was. I went to a French elementary school and I was like very quiet and shy. But what happened in improv class was like I became an animal, like a wild animal. Like anything went. I turned into this other person. I completely transformed into like this beast who was unafraid of anything, who had a voice, who was like so funny and like so cool and like, you know, totally different person than who I was on a daily basis at school, who was like very prim and proper and always did her homework. And that's why I wanted to go into theater school. That feeling of being on stage and feeling completely free, where you weren't in the present moment, you were in an imaginary world and you were connecting to those around you in this space that didn't exist like on Earth. It was in this imaginary sequence. And I felt so free in that moment. Like there was no judgment, even though there was even more judgment. Like when I look back, I'm like, April, there was even more harsh judgment on you. But in that moment, you don't think of the judgment. And every actor loves this. Like if you get to cross that intangible, whatever that, into the present moment, you forget where you are. You don't think about the camera in your face. You don't think about the critics. And if you get 2 or 3 stars, or if your hair is kind of like in your teeth, everything disappears. And that was a huge changing, like earth-shattering moment for me. And I thought if there was something I could do for the rest of my life, that's what I wanted to be. So I went to theater school at Ryerson University in Canada and spent 4 years doing like Shakespeare and Chekhov and really intense theater training, which was different than I thought and didn't have the freedom that I remember loving. And I think I'm always trying to strive for that with my performers on set. And as a director too, trying to be overly prepared, but then also allow for like the moving beast that is cinema to just take the wind and sails and like let the ship move in a direction it needs to, with steering it and making sure you don't crash into a mountain. But, you know, let everyone's creative juices flow and let them all come together to create something really new and unique. If that makes sense.
So I have kind of this a bigger question, but like, what would you say? Because like Liz was saying, you have a very prolific career. You've directed like a bunch of features and TV. But like, what is the key for you to creating new opportunities for yourself, especially directing opportunities, especially early on? Like, what was the thing that like got you your second feature, your third feature, your fourth? Like, what were the things that you were doing to make that happen?
It was like nonstop focus, I have to admit, and dedication. And Tim and I spent like 8 years in a small room like this, creating feature films together. Like we didn't have a car. You don't have anything but what you're creating in front of you. You have paper, you have pen, and you know, if you don't make it happen, no one's going to make it happen. If you don't go out there and like shamefully start knocking on doors. Like I remember our first feature, Rock, Paper, Scissors, The Way of the Tosser, is about a mockumentary and like a mock doc. And it's about a character who loves rock, paper, scissors, goes to the world championships, real thing. We shot at the real championships. We thought we had a hook. We thought we had a movie. Radio silence. There aren't any stars. Nobody wants to see the movie. What are you going to do? You have a product. How do you get it out there? And Tim and I went across the country doing rock, paper, scissors championships in every college and university, watching the movie, and then doing this massive tournament at the end, like in Toronto, with all of the different provincial, you know, winners. We flew them all down. It took 8 months. Like, no shame. Like, I'm telling you, you can't have any fear. You just have to do it for what you love, like fight for the film. So we would be like on the news channels and like the Weather Network doing rock, paper, scissors. Like I was in a short tutu and he was in short shorts that revealed a very bad camel toe. Like I'm saying, it was ridiculous. Like we just stopped at nothing to get noticed and get the film out there. And by the time we came back to Ontario after traveling the whole country in a Yaris with nothing and eating mustard sandwiches and pickles, we came back and we were like to literally Alliance Atlantis. We were like, okay, here's our press. We've done every radio show and every morning show across the country. We went to every university, and every kid wants to see themselves at the end of the film because we did this little like homage to these guys. Everyone is ready. This is our press book, and our press book was humongous. And the distributors looked at us and they said yes. They couldn't take no for an answer. Your first film, you can't give up on it. If you give up on it, it will die. Like, you have to be there every second of the way and fight for that film. And it got distribution. It did so well. It still to this day is the most successful film we've done because it got the most attention, I'm sure. And it sold, the DVD sales were amazing. It sold to paid TV. Everybody across the country kind of knew us as this like dynamic tossing duo, which, is comedy and also a spoof and absolutely ridiculous. And then to break that mold and actually become serious filmmakers after that, that's another like part 2 of the chapter. But what set us apart, I believe, is never, never residing, like never taking a step back or never being too embarrassed. Like we were never embarrassed to be like, I'm calling Christopher Lloyd. We need him in Dead Before Dawn. We cannot make this movie without Christopher. I'm going to call his managers, and I'm there in slippers and I'm pretending to be my own assistant calling from Hollywood and talking to the manager. And I'm like, yes, we can get Mr. Lloyd his script, and then Tim's running out the door, FedExing it to somewhere in like Nashville. Now that I know how the industry actually works, I'm mortified at what I did. But you're blindly
He led you
ambitious.
to success. Why would you be mortified?
Like, no, I just think that is so embarrassing. Like,
No way.
how could that have happened? But you do what you have to. You do what you have to. And if you don't do that for your project, nobody else is going to. Like, the world is too busy. There are too many filmmakers out there. Other things might happen to other people, but it didn't happen here. It was like, every day you wake up and I feel like it was like, oh, okay, what's today? And it's like, I feel like the clock was always ticking, even with Wander. COVID happened. We had a theatrical plan. It blew up. Like, what now? How are we going to get people to see it? After 6 years of putting our lives into it, nothing ever turns out like so smooth.
All right. So April, what is the first film you ever made and how do you feel about it now?
The first film we ever made was Rock, Paper, Scissors, The Way of the Tosser. The one that I just was speaking about.
First project ever? Or?
First one ever. First one ever.
Wow.
We never did a short. We did a feature. Let me just repeat that. The first thing I ever made was a feature film, not a short. Again, would I have changed things? Probably. Like, we probably should have tested things with a short, but I was like, shorts aren't sellable, especially like now they are, but 15 years ago, you couldn't make money off a short, and there was no avenue to show shorts. Social media now, shorts are awesome. But back then you couldn't make profit from a short. So I was like, we're going to put the same amount of money into a short than a feature. We got to make a feature because we got to make our money back because we got to make it work. So we went straight like head first into a feature film, shot in 7 days with 8 people, 2 of which were my sisters. 1 was my grandma, my dad, and mom. Tim's brother was also the first AD. Like, it was a very micro organism, which has so much heart. Like, how do I feel about it now? I just want to hug those people. You're just like, you're so innocent and naive and you don't know what you're about to get into. This is going to be the hardest journey of your lives. And I look at us and we're like so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and we believe in like, the magic of movies and everything's going to work out. And like the characters are also so innocent. It's so endearing because you can see the truth in it. Like, you can see us, we're like deers in headlights. And there's something so pure about that. When you can see filmmakers exercising their muscles for the first time and not understanding the criticism that's about to come from the industry and what that's going to be, because you're just like creating in this bubble at first. It was so difficult. Like, we didn't even know, it was shot on P2, the P2 camera. And it was like brand new technology at the time. And we had I think it was 4 gig cards. So we could only shoot 4 minutes at a time. That's all we had. And we were the first digital film to go through color correction at Telefilm, at Technicolor in Canada.
Wow.
And they didn't really know how to color our film because it was the first time, and they had to ingest everything with these little, we had 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes. And it was just like, we barely
Wow.
could shoot enough. And they didn't understand P2 at the time. Also, we've always been on the forefront of new technology. Like, we were the first to shoot on the Red One with Gravy Train too. And it was still finicky and people didn't really get it. And then with the 3D rig, we had 2 ice packs on our camera, one sitting horizontal, one sitting vertical, and they would overheat each other. As we entered the industry, film was going away, and we were like on the generation of now film is going to be digital. So that was another whole massive learning curve with rock, paper, scissors, and kind of all of our features up until now. It's like everything's kind of caught up with each other.
Wow. You'll be the first filmmakers to ever shoot on a holographic film one day.
Ooh.
Ooh. Oh no, don't even tell me that. The possibilities.
So the second question is, what's the best filmmaking advice you've ever received?
Don't ever doubt. You can never doubt, especially if you're the voice of the film and you're the leader of the film. You have to find a solution. You have to move forward. You have to be smart, and you have to carry the troops with you. Whether you're sitting in quicksand, you cannot let them know. You have to carry them through the storm, even if there's a tornado in the horizon and you see it and you know it's coming. You have to hold them tight and get them through every day. And I think once you're in it, you're in it. There's just no choice. That's at least how I feel.
Do you have a goal, and if you do, what is your goal as a storyteller?
When I look at the films that have made such a huge impact on me, and why I am in love with what I do, and why I am constantly trying to chase this dragon, it's almost to me like I love life. I love the little moments that happen between strangers, the pieces of the natural world that kind of expose themselves to you every day, memories and fractions of memories, and why certain moments stand out in your life and why others don't. And as a filmmaker, I'm obsessed with that. I'm obsessed with time and freezing those moments of connectivity. Like, what makes that spark between 2 strangers in an elevator? Or why, do you remember a grandfather tying a young boy's shoe? Like, all these little things in life that I think are so absolutely stunning. And then when I see a feature film or a work of art or music or anything that kind of strikes your heart and makes you feel, whether that's fear, love, paranoia, happiness, joy, or there's some sort of connectivity, universal human experience, that really is why I love doing what I do. And I strive to always kind of capture, whether it's between 2 actors, or whether it's the music in a film, or whether it's just a visual silent image in a film that captivates you enough to induce feeling and then stick in your brain forever, like E.T. over the moon, like these little iconic images that make us all human and connect us somehow. And why are those images the ones that stand out and stand the test of time? And I think I'm obsessed with trying to find out what they are and come from a true place and put them in a movie as much as I can. I look back and I'm like, I think that film had 10 of those moments. That film had 2. That film had 15. And you're always like, I want to make a film that has 50% of those truthful sparks of life. And then you can rewind them and play them again. I just think that's fascinating. The whole thing's fascinating.
If you could go back in time, what's one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Oh, there's so much advice I would give myself, but if I did, I think I would just freeze. I'd be like, are you sure?
Or even for rock, paper, scissors, what would you have told yourself in making that movie?
I couldn't have told myself anything because I just wouldn't have continued. It was just too much. You know what I would have said? You're doing all right, kid. You know what I mean? Just words of encouragement, because there is so much negativity and a lot of no's. And I was coming up against a lot, even early in my career. I was like a 1%, I was like the only woman on set half the time, and trying to like find that voice. I remember in Gravy Train and Dead Before Dawn, especially, I was always trying to be heard as like being the director. And I always thought, why is it I wanted to go in the bathroom and just scream, like, what is it? And looking back now, I just want somebody to go, you're doing all right, kid. Like you're making it happen. Like, don't be so hard on yourself. I would go to bed analyzing the shots that I got, the shots that I missed, how I would edit the day that I got. And I would be like, taking notes and what could I do better the next day? And I want to keep those aspects of my personality. I think it's what makes me strive to achieve more. But it's nice once in a while for somebody to just be like, it's okay. Like, you're going to fall on your face. You're going to get bumps and bruises. You're going to break a few bones and a tooth, even on set, but you're going to be okay. It's important to find the joy in it, in the mishaps, and find the love in the creative process rather than like being like over analytical and so hard on yourself to the point where, you're frozen.
Our last question, is making movies hard?
Well, of course it is. And it also is the most rewarding thing in the world. But I think it's so much harder than anyone could ever imagine, just because of so many elements that have to come together so perfectly to actually get something shot. Sometimes I think it's a complete miracle or a jinx. Like, even just to shoot 1 hour on film, so many elements have to be exactly right to actually nail a scene, let alone a 90-minute film. And like, still, I'm always humbled by it. I always realize like there's so many more elements to it all than just us, and it's hard, but I love it.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, April. If people want to know more about Wander, see the movie, find out more about you, where should they go?
Wander is playing on demand everywhere digitally and some select theaters December 4th. So it's available everywhere. And you can check out our website, aprilmullen.com. If you ever want to find me, I'm on Instagram too. And thank you for supporting independent cinema. It's an incredible, difficult challenge to create original, not remake, original work in this atmosphere of today. And just thank you for taking the time to allow us to make a smaller feature film with a smaller budget, but allow us to be creative and tell new stories. So thank you for supporting us.
All right. Thanks for listening, and thanks to April Mullen and Judy Merrick for all their work arranging this podcast episode. It's been great. You can check out our website at makingmoviesishard.com, where you can find links to the things we talked about on this episode. If you want to get in contact with us, you can send an email to podcast@makingmoviesishard.com, or you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at MMIH Podcast, also YouTube as well, Making Movies is Hard Podcast, I believe. And I'm Alrik on Twitter and Instagram. Liz, where are you?
I'm Liz Manishaw on Twitter. I'm really trying to get to 2,000 followers. Please follow me. Just please. I'll follow you back. Well, I'll pay you money. And then I'm Liz Manishaw Film on Instagram.
And please, if you like the show, like we talked about earlier, you can leave a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And thank you so much to Carly McKeating for editing this episode. Thank you, Carly. And we will talk to you guys next week. Man, I disturbed Michael. He's so asleep. He's just like, just whatever.